After a Catholic heir to the throne was born, a group of Protestant nobles appealed to Mary Stuart, daughter of King James II, and William Henry of Orange of the Netherlands, were invited to displace King James II as king, thus ensuring a Protestant line to the throne. Then what historians refer to as the Glorious Revolution followed in 1688. James II fled England, and Mary and William were crowned as a joint monarchy. In 1689, the English Bill of Rights, which is part of the Constitution, was passed. This again resulted in a shift of power towards Parliament, away from the monarchy. The Crown was now required to summon Parliament frequently, and they were now free from royal interference. James I, who fled to France, was declared an abdication of the throne, and Roman Catholics could no longer ascend to the throne, and the king or queen must swear to uphold the Protestant faith. The Act of Settlement of 1701 is also part of the Constitution. This was to declare a Protestant royal line, which next went through Electress Sophia of Hanover, as Mary and William's marriage did not produce an heir. This law is still in force today, as in 2008 Kelly Alton was forced to turn to Anglicanism from Roman Catholicism, so her husband, Peter Phillips, could remain 11th in line to the throne. The Act created the English constitutional monarchy and placed in writing the supremacy of Parliament. The Treaty of Union of 1707 abolished the Scottish Parliament, and the Parliament of Great Britain met for the first time. The Kingdom of Great Britain was created. Another milestone was the 1800 Act of Union with Ireland, which created the Parliament of the United Kingdom, when Irish MPs entered the House of Commons. The Reform Act of 1832 changed the criteria of the eligibility of voters, which increased the number of men who could vote by over 50%. Another power shift came with the Parliament Act of 1911. This removed the power of the House of Lords to block legislation. They could now only delay a bill rather than reject it. The Government of Ireland Act of 1920 split Ireland into two states, northern and southern, and the Irish Free State became independent in 1922. The Parliament Act of 1949 reduced the powers of the House of Lords to delay a bill from 2 years down to 1. More recently, the Scottish Parliament was reborn and became the single unicameral legislature of Scotland because of the Scotland Act of 1998. And in 1999, the Scottish Parliament, the National Assembly of Wales, and the Northern Ireland Assembly were finalised, as continued devolution looks possible. The Lisbon Treaty will overnight change the rights and freedoms we have enjoyed for centuries, and even our judicial system. It will change the very structure of British democracy. The head of Parliament is the British Crown, and the Parliament consists of two chambers, the House of Commons and the House of Lords. The House of Lords is made up from life peers, elected peers, and Lords Spiritual, who are made up from bishops from the Church of England. The House of Commons are made up by members of Parliament, who are elected at general elections. They are directly elected, therefore accountable to the public. The government is led by the Prime Minister, who is the leader of the party who have the majority of MPs after the general election. After parliamentary procedure has taken place and the bill has majority approval in both houses, it is then granted royal assent to become an Act of Parliament. Although the constitutional monarch does have the power to withhold royal assent, thus making it null and void. This, however, has not been used since the Scottish Militia Bill of 1708. This means that if the majority of the voting public are unhappy with the current government, they are able to effectively sack the ruling government and hire the opposition party as the new government. This means that the general public have ultimate say in who runs the country. The incoming ruling party will then swear allegiance to the British monarchy in conjunction with the Constitution. And as the sovereign has already pledged allegiance to the people of the United Kingdom via the coronation oath, this should mean that if the oaths and the Constitution are respected, then this democratically elected political structure should not be broken, and our national sovereignty and the supremacy of Parliament should be maintained at all times. The Lisbon Treaty will completely destroy this process and hundreds of years of history that on paper it has no right to do. It will be replaced by something which is completely undemocratic. It will be replaced with a political structure that is based upon the political model of Soviet Russia. After the treaty, they will even have the same number of people in the government, who are also not elected by the public and therefore unaccountable. They will also be placed above the law.
So I've received the message that this organisation no longer represents me democratically. Democracy is dead, and it's not surprising that the European buzzword, and I presume my Member of Parliament knows it, is that we are now in a post-democratic era. In other words, democracy is finished.
The government claimed that they had negotiated red lines at the time of the drafting of the Lisbon Treaty that the EU could not cross in 4 sensitive areas of UK law.
I mean, we're making progress so far as we're concerned on the 4 key elements for the British position here, which is to make sure that the Charter on the rights cannot alter British law in any way, which is to make sure that the common and foreign security policy remains the property of the government, and we don't lose control of that in any way, which is to make sure that our social security system is properly protected and that we are not obliged to go into the judicial and police part of the new treaty.
However, under legal scrutiny, the red lines do not appear to be that strong. Legal experts claim that the Justice and Home Affairs red line is not concrete and will eventually mean very little. It is a 5-year delay that is secured until the European Court of Justice gains jurisdiction over our justice and home affairs, making itself superior to our own courts. This delay only relates to pre-existing legislation. Any new legislation passed in this area will immediately come under the jurisdiction of the court. The opt-in that has been secured allows the UK to opt in on a case-by-case basis. But once we opt in at the start of the draft legislation, we can no longer opt out once the legislation is complete, even if by the end we no longer agree with it. There is no opt-out in this area.